Welcome to Hot Route Takes. Today we're doing a deep dive into the AFC East secondary and ranking all four units. But before we get into all that, we wanted to touch base on a couple moves that happened over the weekend and today. Christian, do you want to touch on those?
Yeah, I'll touch on them. The Cowboys, Brandon Cooks, they actually went and got kind of, I feel like their first big pickup since the whole Amari Cooper trade. Going to get number 2 guy and only gave up, a 2023 fifth and a 2024 6th round pick. To me, that's a steal for a very good wide receiver. They've kind of been missing a good 2 guy since Amari Cooper's kind of been out of the building.
Yeah, I think just getting someone to pair with CeeDee Lamb, and they were loaded at receiver a couple years ago, and they had Amari Cooper, they had CeeDee Lamb, they had Michael Gallup, but it doesn't seem like Michael Gallup's going to be that guy for them. So I think it was a good move for them to go get Brandon Cooks and really solidify that second receiver position, and just help out that offense a lot. I think that kind of gives a little bit of a tell that they might be moving a little bit more towards the passing game, with Zeke being out the door, Pollard being back. So that's just kind of where my head goes with that. But
yeah, I agree.
Another one?
Another one that kind of surprised me is, Adam Thielen getting cut by the Vikings and the Panthers go and pick him up. I think it's a great move for the Panthers. I understand he's an older wide receiver, veteran guy. But how it's looking right now for them to go trade up for that first round or first pick in the draft, I think this is a good guy you can line up with a rookie quarterback if that's the direction they're going in, that kind of be just that safety valve for their first guy they come off the board picking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Adam Thielen, veteran receiver, been around the block, and very nuanced route runner. I'm sure he has a lot to bring to the receiver room as a mentor to help some of these guys. I know they have Terrence Marshall Jr. That's a young player that I'm sure they're hoping will take a step. I believe he was a second-round pick in 2020.
Sounds right.
Somewhere in there. At LSU, he was the just under Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, but good ball player. I hope Adam Thielen could be that guy to kind of mentor him and help the young quarterback, whoever that is.
Yeah, is there any moves you kind of that I didn't hit on that kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah, the C.J. Gardner-Johnson, that might be the single best signing of all of free agency, man. That's for $8 million, man.
Yeah, and Detroit secondary was terrible last year. And this is a good, they wasn't terrible, but.
Oh, it was.
I think this was a guy they needed to go get to kind of help the secondary and some of these younger players, like the Jeff Okudah they have at corner. Just a veteran present that maybe can lead this young team.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, it's a great signing and a steal for, $8 million, 1 year deal.
This guy was going to get the bag, dude.
Yeah.
Get paid several-year contract, not a 1 year, $8 million.
I've talked to you off the pod multiple times about this guy didn't play 4 or 5 games and still was 6 picks and led the NFL for a while with just the 6 picks he's got early in the league.
Yeah, and he's a do-it-all guy. He can line up in the slot. He can play safety. He can man up. He can drop into zones. This is a guy that can do a little bit of everything, and I think adding a guy like that to Detroit's secondary, plus, they shored up that corner room a little bit, and maybe, they do have a young safety, man. His name's escaping me right now, but you certainly like the direction Detroit's going in. The offense is going to score points. And if their defense just can be a little bit better, I really think they can take that division, man.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Which is what we're kind of looking at around the division with the whole Aaron's definitely probably more than likely out. And the Vikings kind of just cut ties and showed they're not going all in with Kirk Cousins. Kind of been open about they're going to move on from Kirk Cousins, not re-sign him, and kind of build this team up for the future. And I think that's the right choice for the Vikings. Without Aaron in that division, this is your time to kind of build up and be ready to take that next step and be the leader of the division.
Yeah, I would agree. Another move that happened was Malik Reed to the Dolphins. And this is a good signing because, one, it was a value signing. I think they got him at around $2 million on a 1-year deal. But he is an excellent fit to the defense. He played with Vic Fangio back when he was with Denver and played opposite of Bradley Chubb. So he probably feels right at home in Miami, and that puts a nice little rotation to our outside linebacker unit with Bradley Chubb on one side and Jalen Phillips on the other. We also have Emmanuel Ogbah coming back this year. But I think getting a guy like Malik Reed kind of hints at maybe they are going to be looking to trade Emmanuel Ogbot, but we'll see him. I like the Malik Reed signing. I think he's a nice fit and a nice depth piece for Miami, but I think that's all I got. You got any other significant?
No, I mean, one that we said on the last pod was, Darius Slay getting released, then getting turned around and picked right back up by the Eagles. Kind of blew me away thinking they released the guy to let him go and then just brought him right back in. But I think that's more on the whole C.J. Gardner-Johnson going to get the deal. And I think it was one of those two guys was who they were going to try to bring back in, and Detroit steals one. They just go back to the other guy.
Yeah, that's tough, though. If I had to pick between the two, I'm going to go with C.J. Gardner-Johnson just because his youth, man. Like, that's the guy I would want to stick around my franchise. But you ready for these AFC East secondary rankings, man?
I'm ready, man. I hadn't really, got my rankings. I want to hear what you kind of say, go off of what I kind of found out, and then at the end we kind of, see how we rank them and where they lay.
All right. Well, I wanted to go in order of which they finished in the AFC East last year. So Buffalo finished first, Miami finished second, New England finished third, the Jets finished last. Last, baby. Last. But yeah, so Buffalo. Anything you want to get off your chest before I go on a rant here?
Nah, I mean, I'm ready to hear your, rant on Buffalo.
All right. So what I did is I went through and I got a bunch of information, like what these teams had in their secondary. How much money were they putting into their secondary? How much were they allocating to the secondary as far as what financials and how much investment with, draft picks and all of that. So that's what I did. And Buffalo has spent a lot of money on their secondary. First in the NFL. They have 14 players under contract for $53.7 million. That is 23.6% of their salary cap. That is good for first in the NFL. So I got a list of guys they got in their secondary. They got Tre'Davious White. That was at one point at least a lockdown corner on the outside. Now, since he came back from his ACL tear, I believe, he has maybe lost a little bit of a step, but he's still a good player. Still a good corner. He graded out with a 56.7 PFF coverage grade this year, which is not very good, but you're talking about the number one corner. He gets targets. He has to go up against the number one receiver often. So, but that is a little bit low for him, especially considering the financials. He had a $16.2 million cap hit coming up this year, and he is under contract through 2025. And when his contract is up, he will be 30 years old. He's a good player, though. Another good player in their secondary, Micah Hyde, with a $10.5 million cap hit, under contract for 2026. And he will be 36 when his contract is up. And his PFF coverage grade last year was a 69.1, which is solid. But Micah Hyde's had better seasons, and he's a really good safety. Buffalo's got a pair of safeties that are like interchangeable, man. And that's like one of the keys to their defense that makes it so hard to stop is they have two safeties that can pretty much play anywhere. And so you never know where they're going to roll post snap. They could line up, and show a pretty basic cover 3 shell and then rotate that thing, and one drops back and then one comes up forward and plays a hold in the hole. And that's unique, I would say. And it's one of the main staples of their defense that, combined with their two really solid linebackers in coverage, Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano, they had the two highest PFF coverage grades on the team with a 90 and an 83.2, and that's really solid. And I think that's really what ties their whole defense together is Tremaine Edmunds' ability to drop and cover so much ground in these middle zones. And I really like him. I think he's a very good player, and he does a lot for this defense. He does a lot of things that a lot of linebackers can't dream of doing. And so they also have Jordan Poyer, who they brought back. That's the other safety, and I already touched on him. They brought him back for a relatively good deal, too, with only a $4.85 million cap hit, and he is under contract next season as well as this one. He'll be 33 when his deal is up, and he graded out with a PFF grade of 62.7, and I think he only played 2 games, so I wouldn't put too much into that. I think he injured his neck in week 2, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty positive it was week 2, week 3.
No, Micah Hyde injured his neck.
Yeah, Micah Hyde.
Micah Hyde
My
injured
bad.
his neck. Oops, got him mixed up. But Poyer did have some injury concerns. I think it was his elbow.
Yeah, it was his elbow.
But Jordan Poyer, good player. That 62.7 is legit. And the Micah Hyde 69.1 was only on 2 games. So they also got a couple. I put a depth player in here for them. His name is Siren Neal. Solid player. He's a depth guy. He can fill in if one of the guys is out. But $3.3 million cap hit. He is under contract through this season and next. He is 30 years old. He has a PFF coverage rate of 55.5. And the last one I was going to touch on for Buffalo was their first-round pick, Kaiir Elam. He does have a $3.1 million cap hit, and he's got plenty of time left. He's under contract through 2025. He'll only be 24 when his contract's up, and he had a PFF grade of 66. And I wouldn't say he underwhelmed, but he certainly didn't quite live up to the hype behind him as a first-round draft pick. But there's still plenty of time for him to kind of correct that ship. And if I'm Buffalo, I would have expectations for him. I would hope that he would fill a significant role in that defense. But yeah, I think they have a very, very strong secondary. They run a cover 3 scheme. But what I find most interesting, I touched on it a little bit earlier, is that so much of their success is dependent on the 2 safeties and the 2 middle linebackers covering the middle of the field, and then the corners locking down outside. But the middle 4, the 2 middle linebackers and the 2 safeties, that's their bread and butter, and that's what makes that defense roll. And they ask a lot of those guys. And I just wonder what will happen after losing a guy like Tremaine Edmunds that they relied on so much and did so much for that defense, and losing their DC Leslie Frazier. And that was a leader to that defensive unit, and he meant a lot to them. I'm sure Sean McDermott can step in and do well because, he is a DC or a defensive head coach, and he understands the scheme very well. But, when you're losing a guy like that, you always got to wonder, what all did he have his hand on, and how much can Sean McDermott kind of cover that? So, yeah, that's what I got on the Bills, man. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a lot of information to take in. You maybe said it, man. It was, like I said, a good bit. But did you get Teron Johnson, their corner PFF grade?
Oh, I did not. I skipped right over. Teron Johnson. He has a $9.25 million cap hit. He is under contract through 2024, so this year and next. He'll be 28 when his contract's up. And he had a 73.2 PFF grade. And now I'm just kind of putting them out there right now, and at the end we're going to compare them, but I'm just kind of give everyone an idea of what the secondary is, who their bread and butter players are, what the scheme is, and who are their money makers in that secondary.
I got you. One thing I'd like to maybe talk about the whole PFF grade, at least on the Buffalo side. I think kind of losing Micah Hyde and Tadarius White made a lot of these guys maybe play in different positions that they weren't used to, and that's kind of hurting their PFF grade. I wouldn't kind of pin all of it on that grade, but at the same time, you're in the NFL, you expect to play these positions, you should do it at a high level. No,
you're exactly right. I'm not putting everything on these PFF grades, but when you see a startlingly high number
versus a guy that's way down, you can turn on the TV and look and definitely see it.
Yeah, I think PFF is not something that's be-all, end-all.
No, I agree.
think it matches with the film, and you use PFF to kind of back some of that that you see on tape. I think
I like to use it
together.
Kind of like a starting line. You see their grade, then you can go do your deep dive and look into it.
Yep.
Some of the stuff I kind of got on Buffalo, though, was kind of like you said, Darius White. A lot of this secondary kind of falls onto him, and that's why I'm going to say they didn't live up to the expectations that a lot of people hope. To kind of like you said, the whole Elam coming in, the first-round pick, he had to step up immediately and kind of didn't have a choice. But like you said, I would think Buffalo would hope that he played at a higher level using that first-round pick onto him. But even then, I kind of hit on something else you said with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde coming back. This is, to me, one of the most consistent secondaries, safety duo, at least in the NFL.
Experience for sure.
Yeah, these guys have plenty of time on their belt, played a long time with each other now at this point, and kind of know where each other's going to be on the field and know, well, he's got me here, I can go here and cheat here. I think that's a great thing for Buffalo to have both of these guys coming back. And another thing, kind of like what you said, the key losses of Edmunds. Granted, I think Matt Milano, believe it or not, and at least to me, is the better linebacker. I think he's their strong suit at the linebacker position.
I think he's a better run defender, but as far as a pass coverage guy,
for them in general, I think if you lost him, it hits the secondary harder than it is for Edmunds. I think that you can make a take out of that. I just think Matt Milano is a bigger effect than Edmunds is.
Okay.
In my eyes. And I think with me saying this, I look at it as if they would have lost him, that's a bigger effect on the secondary. Because they're losing, one, a guy like you're saying, they can get to the running back and get to the quarterback also. They did send him a couple times after the quarterback this year that we've seen a good bit on Tua.
Oh, man. That was a dirty hit.
But like I was saying, though, but also another thing is Tre'Davious White's going to be 100%. I would think this offseason, we've seen him come back later in the year. Like you said, he did kind of look like he lost a step, but ACL is a significant injury still at this point.
For sure.
I think with him coming back at 100%, and Elam should, you would think, step up his game. I think that's two good corners they can lean on, and Teron Johnson has, to me,
solid.
When Buffalo needs him and he's in that nickel corner spot, he's performed pretty well to me.
Yeah,
I think healthy-wise and having these two safeties coming back, the only thing, like I said, Edmunds hurt, but I think their salary cap is kind of tight, and it's going to hurt them kind of maybe getting somebody to replace Edmunds. But I'm feeling pretty good with them getting all the stuff they're going to get back and then re-signing Jordan Poyer, like you said. This could easily be a top 10 defense, easily. It's just, will they be over the top 10 into that top 5 mark?
Yeah, based on what I see, I think they are poised to regress a little bit. I don't think it will be significant, but these safeties are getting older.
I agree with that. And like you said,
33.
I'm worried that losing your defensive coordinator, I understand like guys like Von Miller's came out and said, yeah, they've lost him, but it's not going to, Buffalo's going to be Buffalo. It's kind of what players are saying, but any player that lose a coach are going to say only positive things about the team.
Yeah.
I wonder just how much, like you're saying, Sean McDermott's hands are actually on this defense, and maybe we see the opposite effect. Instead of being worse, they somehow get better with Sean McDermott.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule
and they
it
wouldn't
out.
surprise me either. The only thing that kind of scares me with Buffalo is it isn't their secondary's fault, but just how their scheme is set up. Their linebackers cover so much of the middle of the field, and that's going to maybe hurt the secondary going into this next year, losing Edmunds.
Yeah, I would agree. Because, like I said, he covers a lot of ground, man. Yeah. And he might be outside of Fred Warner, one of the best linebackers in coverage. Yeah,
top 5, easily.
He ain't touching Fred Warner, though.
No, I'm just saying top 5. Fred Warner's the guy.
He is. So, do you want to transition to Miami?
Yeah, we can. I'm good.
You want to go ahead and get your thoughts out there first? Or you want me to go first, man?
I can go first.
All right.
We can go ahead and start with the big thing. I think Miami kind of shook the AFC East by trading for Ramsey. I think that was a good pickup. Yes, I can see Miami fans leaning on maybe we could have brought a better running back, maybe got offensive line help. I mean, that's one big concern with me is this offensive line and just bringing this running back room. But we're here to talk about secondary. So I think Ramsey's a great pickup. The only thing that scares me is I'm not going to say he's a diva, but he's a cocky guy. He is. But you're teaming him up with X or however you want to say his name. Xavier Howard and him are going to be a good duo. If Xavier Howard is coming back 100% and the injuries are not going to reappear. But, to me, this is going to be a heavy pass NFL, and it's important for teams to have corners capable of covering elite wide receivers.
Yeah.
And in y'all's division, there's a lot of elite wide receivers.
And they all about to get locked up.
Okay. But I just think with the wide receivers seeming to get better and better, it's making the cornerback jobs, I feel like, harder than it's ever been in the league. So you go get a Jalen Ramsey. Y'all went and got a Deshaun Elliott.
Yep.
And then you have Javon Holland back there. And Javon Holland, to me, is surprising me a lot since his first step into the league to now, and could easily be a top 5 guy at his position, in my eyes.
Yeah, well.
And I think he's not even touching the potential that he could have. I think he still can take another step or two before he is done with his progression. And that's only going to help Miami secondary. And then with the new defensive coordinator coming in, I would be very surprised on how he's going to be used this coming up year.
Yeah, I would completely agree, man. I mean, Miami's got quite a few good players in the secondary. It's not just Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard. We do have Brandon Jones coming back.
Yeah.
Solid safety, man. Him and Deshaun Elliott played together at Texas, and they were a good duo there. And Brandon Jones, man, he's one of these guys I really think could have a big year. I think he's a good player. I think he can come in, and I think he had the most quarterback pressures of any safety in 2021.
Yeah, and like I'm
he was
saying,
getting
with
after quarterback.
Vic coming there to be y'all's DC, y'all are getting great pieces to kind of help what he wants to do on the defensive side.
Oh, yeah.
And then another thing is, I mean, with New York looking like they mean business on the offensive side, I think it was just even smarter for y'all to go get a Jalen Ramsey to help y'all. And then I got a couple more little things. Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard both drafted in 2016 as a 5th and 38th pick. I mean, they're both top guys when they were drafted. And I mean, I can't even talk. They both have gone and make names for themselves in the league. I understand we're not talking about what they've done in the past, but just something. I mean, 10 Pro Bowls appearances, 4 first-team All-Pros between them. This is currently the most among any quarterback pair in the NFL. And
That's a lot of accolades, man.
It is. I mean, Ramsey has recorded 452 tackles, 311 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 92 pass deflects, 19 interceptions, and 108 games. Howard has recorded 286 combined tackles, 22 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 83 pass deflections, 28 interceptions, and 82 games.
Ooh, 28 interceptions. I believe that leads the NFL.
I mean, just with both of these guys, you got one at 19 and 28. Granted, they've been in the league, since 2016, but still, that's a lot of interceptions.
Yeah.
The only thing that scares me with this pair is, one, injuries on the Xavier Howard side. And Ramsey, at least with the Rams, sometimes got caught in no man's land. But I think with going to Miami and having, I'm not going to say a better team, just the Rams had a lot of injuries. I think, at least defensively, this is going to be a way better team than what he had with the Rams. So he won't be as greedy, is a good way to put it, and be more at home or at bay. So I'm excited to see this Miami team, and not just secondary-wise getting better in this division, but also on the other side, offensively, this division is arguably could be the best offensive division, other than maybe New England needs to fix some things. But the other 3 teams in the Jets, Buffalo, and Dolphins offense are going to be so explosive. That's why we're seeing this division, definitely this division, getting better in the secondary.
I think, man, we're looking at a bunch of teams in this AFC East really turning it on. Buffalo, I would say they are in their prime right now, and I think they might be, if they're not over the hump, they might be approaching getting over the hump. But like they're on their way down maybe a little bit just because they've had this window for a little while now. But Miami, I think we're peaking. Like this is our win now window right now. We got to win. New York, team on the rise. I mean, I wouldn't say their win now is right now. I think maybe they got some time. Maybe next year is like they're ready to go. But they're a very good team. Yeah. They're a team on the rise. And they're going to be competitive. But if they land Aaron Rodgers, which all signs point to they are.
Definitely.
They're going to win now.
Yeah, I think with the Aaron, kind of the same thing you hinted on, is I don't think this year they're going to shoot for a Super Bowl this year with Aaron. I'm leaning on what you kind of said. I think that's what Jets fans are hoping for. But I don't think you trade what they're going to have to end up trading for Aaron Rodgers if you're not getting 2 years, at least. So I can see this year be the 1 year with Aaron, get his system in with his old OC, fill out how this year goes, and then next year is your, hey, this is our year to go all in and kind of do what Tampa Bay kind of did with Tom and just cap load everything you can and see how far you get.
Yeah, fuck Zach Wilson, right? Oops.
Oh, some people said with Aaron coming in the building, it's going to help him get better.
Yeah, well, I do think New England could even be a little bit more competitive this year. They their defense is there, man. They got the players.
Always.
And they do have like a nice little slew of mid offensive weapons. I mean, they do have Devontae Parker, and they got
Mike Gesicki now.
Well, yeah, Mike Gesicki, Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah,
their second round pick last year.
Speedy guy, but hasn't really showed on the field.
No, not really, and you would hope he would with their lack of weapons last year. But they also have Juju Smith-Schuster, their most recent signing. They have Ramondre Stevenson, and that's a pretty solid little slew of weapons.
This is off subject, but I'm just curious. I've heard around.
We're already off subject, man.
Yeah, but so Jacoby Myers or Juju, who's the better player to you? So I've been hearing one side, man, knocking louder than the other, but I don't.
I mean, I really think they give you a lot of the same things.
They do. I think Juju ceiling is higher.
I would agree, yeah.
But it hasn't panned out. Like last year was his chance to show his ceiling and be the player that he was when Antonio Brown was with him in Pittsburgh, and it didn't.
If I had to give an edge, I would go with Juju. But like, if I'm gonna
pick one of these guys, I hate to say it, but I think I'm going Jacoby Myers.
If I had to pick, I'm going with Juju.
I don't know, man. I
think Juju just gives you a little more upside, man. He's a little more athletic.
Jacoby Myers, man. I do. Definitely with where he's going to a system, the same system. Juju's going to have to learn a new system.
Yeah, I would say since they're so close, if one's got familiarity with the system, I would just pick him.
Yeah.
But that's not what they did. They went with Juju. So we'll see how that goes for him.
Yeah.
They have Bill's over there looking for bargain deals. We'll see how this one works out for him.
You talk about, what was it, Miami secondary?
Yeah, so like I said, AFC East spends money on their secondary. Miami is no different. They have 14 players under contract for $50.8 million. That is good for 22.5% of their salary cap, which is good for second most in the NFL, only behind Buffalo. And a large part of this 50.8 is the $18.4 million in dead cap Miami's going to have to eat from Byron Jones, which sucks. That really does. That sucks. I wish Byron Jones was healthy and playing this year. Then maybe we could have spent some of that $40 million we did on Jalen Ramsey on that offensive line. But Jalen Ramsey's here, and he's a stud. So we're going to talk about him. And he only has a $4 million cap hit this year. They restructured his contract, and he has a bunch on the back end. But a lot of that is dead cap the Rams are going to have to eat from the trade and guarantees. So Jalen Ramsey, $4 million cap hit. He's under contract for 2025, in which he'll be 31 years old. And he finished with a PFF coverage grade of 77.8 with the Rams. Well, I mean, there ain't a whole lot to say about Jalen Ramsey. This is one of the best corners in the NFL, and he has been for a long time. I would say if you, off the top of your head, you're thinking about a premier corner, that's probably the first name that comes to mind. He's just been that guy for years now. And Xavier Howard, he's under... His cap hit is $10 million this year. He's under contract through 2027, and he'll be 34 years old by the end of his contract. He's under contract for a while. I hope he bounces back. He's had some of these injury concerns over the years. He kind of rebounded in 2020 and had a ridiculous season after having a little bit some knee problems. But I'm hoping he can sling it together, man. I think he is a really good player. He's a little bit of a different style corner than Ramsey, which is fine. I'll get into that a little bit more later. But $10 million cap hit this year. He finished with a PFF coverage grade of 56, which is not good. And had his contract restructured. He is about like Jalen Ramsey. He'll have like a $25 million cap hit from here on as well. The next biggest hit on the cap is Noah Igbenogany. This one hurts. This was a first-round pick in 2020, and he doesn't touch the field. But $3.6 million cap hit. He's under contract. This is his last year. And he hardly played. Like I said, he did have a game-winning interception against Pittsburgh, and that was the highlight of his career. I think the last time he was really touching the field, he was just getting burnt by Stephon Diggs. But I would assume he's not going to make much of an impact, and he'll be a goner next year. So that's all there is to say about him. Keon Crossan, $3.2 million cap hit. He's on a contract for 2024. He'll be 28 years old by the end of his contract, and he posted a PFF grade of 48.5. Bad. Really bad. This is a special team player that got forced into action for Miami, unfortunately, and the results were bad. I'll get into the scheme and the specifics here in a minute. But Brandon Jones, $3 million cap hit. He's under contract through this year, and he will be 25 by the end of his contract, and his PFF coverage grade was 52.4. He was hurt this year, so that's not many games. He did tear his ACL. I expect him to come back and be impact player for Miami. Next player is Javon Holland, going to be elite player, I think. He has a $2.4 million cap hit. He's under contract through 2024. I don't know what that was. He'll be 24 by the end of that, and he had a PFF coverage grade of 65.7. And I'm really excited about him in this new defense, man. He's going to be a stud. But Nick Needham, $1.8 million cap hit. Under contract through 2023. He'll be 27 years old. Posted a PFF coverage grade of 66.5. He tore his Achilles. He is expected to be coming back next year. He got signed. I don't know when he'll be available to play, but he is their nickel, and he is a pretty solid nickel. He's a former UDFA, and he just developed and really turned himself into a really nice player. So they did, like Christian said, bring in Deshaun Elliott, safety for the Detroit Lions. He signed a 1-year deal with Miami, and he posted a PFF coverage grade of 64.1. And the last player, Kader Kohu, which was the biggest surprise for the Miami Dolphins last year, and one of the biggest surprises in the entire NFL. Only an $880,000 cap hit. I believe he got a big raise by the NFL, almost doubled his salary from a performance-based bump on his salary. But he's under contract through 2024. He'll be 26 years old by the end of it, and he posted a PFF coverage grade of 68.6. All right, now that all of those numbers are out of the way, Miami has spent a good amount and really invested into the secondary. And they were very much a man-heavy defense before this transition to Fangio. And I think with Fangio coming in, it's really going to change a lot of this. Miami suffered a slew of injuries last year to the corner room. Byron Jones, we all know that story. He never was ready. He was supposed to be ready by the start of the season. He wasn't, didn't play a snap. Nick Needham tore his Achilles. Brandon Jones tore his ACL. Trill Williams tore his ACL. Mackenzie Alexander tore his ACL. Dude, like Miami really, they got hit hard. And then to top it off, Xavier Howard was hurt. He suffered a groin injury in week 3 and never recovered from it. He played all year long, banged up, and it showed. And so maybe him not being 100% was kind of the reason for the struggles. I'm hoping to see him healthy next year. What made things worse was Boyer's system asked a lot of their defensive backs. They had a lot of zero looks with a bunch of linebackers and safeties pushed up onto the line of scrimmage showing blitz, and you had corners out there on islands. And we're not talking about Byron Jones. We're talking about freaking Keon Crossan out there, locked up man on man, special teams player, and we're out here zero blitzing every other week, and it just didn't work, man. And I think changing over to Fangio's system will help a lot of the players on this roster. 2 players specifically, Xavier Howard. 1, because this puts Xavier Howard in position to be successful. In his best seasons, he was really, I wouldn't say he's corner 2, because I think he's a better player than Byron Jones, but Byron Jones would take a receiver and he would plaster him, man. He'd be all over him. Byron Jones' problem was not his ability to cover. He'd had like no ball skills, man. He would be in perfect position and the ball would go right over his noggin to the receiver. Like, it was ridiculous. Byron Jones had like 2 interceptions his entire time in Miami, but he was plastering receivers. And so when that happens, a quarterback sees him and he's like, well, I'm not going to throw it that way. He's looking the other direction, and Xavier Howard's baiting the quarterback into throwing that ball, and he will pick it off. And he did. He posted 10 interceptions in 2020, and that's kind of how that happened. And I think bringing in a guy like Jalen Ramsey, who can take whoever, you can put him on a tight end, you can put him on a corner, you can put Jalen Ramsey in the slot, and he's going to lock it down. Xavier Howard can go back to his mischievous ball-taking ways and start intercepting quarterbacks again, and that's really his game. He's not a lockdown guy anymore. He's a guy that's a ball hawk. He's going to go try to make plays on the ball. So I think it's going to be a big thing for Xavier Howard and Fangio's system. Also, with Jalen Ramsey coming through, but the other player I expect to really benefit from this is Javon Holland. Fangio's defense, the playmakers in his defense are their safeties. He runs a lot of big nickel sets with 3 safeties on the field, and that's going to be Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, and Deshaun Elliott. And that's really solid, man. And that's going to allow Javon Holland to play all over the place. Like I said last year with Miami and the Boyer system and the lack of corners, we were zero blitzing, leaving Xavier Howard all banged up on the outside, Keon Crossan banged up on the outside, and the only one that was really locking up was Kader Kohu in the slot. And that was a surprise. But this whole time, Javon Holland's playing deep, being the safety that has to be the last man standing and make the tackle. So he had to be back there out of necessity. And so with us zeroing, not really getting home because our corners couldn't lock up, they were just throwing slants on us, man. And Javon Holland's back there having to come make a tackle, make tackle. They weren't pushing the ball down the field because we're zeroing. So Javon Holland was pretty much removed from almost every play at times. And I think being in the Fangio system where he can roll down in the box and be more closer to the line of scrimmage and maybe get him involved a little bit more, I think would really open up his ability to make plays. And so I really like Holland in this new defense. With Jalen Ramsey coming here, it's just also going to help a guy like Holland. That's a very experienced guy. He knows his stuff, and I'm sure he has some tricks and traits that Holland will pick up on. But I really think between the improvements maybe of Jalen Ramsey and the new system and Javon Holland maybe taking that next step, I think Miami's defense is really poised to take a giant step. I didn't say that they were the second worst team in the NFL, their coverage rankings. They ranked 31st in the NFL, according to PFF, just above Detroit. That's bad, man.
Only one way to go.
Yeah, you can only go up from here.
Goodness.
But I know I just spilled a monologue on you, but do you have anything to say about Miami?
What was I going to add? Goodness. Nah, I mean, kind of like what we were talking about. Just I'm excited to see with the new defensive coordinator coming in and seeing if if Miami is healthy, what this defense could be is what I'm kind of excited to see. And with how high power, like we were hitting on earlier, this offense is going to be on every team in this division. I'm just excited to see how this Miami defense is going to stand to it.
Yeah, I would agree. 100%. So, any last words on the Miami Dolphins secondary?
I just, like I said, excited to see what they're going to be doing next year.
All right. I will move on to New England. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, you go ahead and take it.
So New England hadn't spent as much as the other teams in the division, but they still spent a decent bit. They have 14 players under contract for $32.4 million, which is only 14.55% of their cap, which is good for 21st in the NFL. So unlike everyone else in the division, they don't prioritize the secondary in means of financials, but boy, did they draft corners. They drafted a lot of them.
And good.
They're good at it too. They have Jonathan Jones. This is the biggest cap hit on the team at $6.2 million. He's under contract through this year and next, and he'll be 31 by the end of that contract. And he finished with a PFF coverage grade of 67.9. I like this player a lot. I've said it on the podcast several times. I was hoping he was going to come to Miami, but he re-signed with New England. Devin Cordy, he retired, but he has a $4.6 million cap hit in 2023. That sucks for them, but at least it's not $18 million, right? Adrian Phillips, Another good player, safety, $4.5 million cap hit under contract through 2024. He'll be 32. He posted a PFF coverage rate of 71.6. Kyle Duggar, another good safety, $3.65 million cap hit under contract through 2023. He'll be 27 years old. He finished with a PFF coverage rate of 78.3. Another good safety, Jabril Peppers, $3.4 million cap hit under contract through 2024. He'll be 29 years old. He finished with a PFF coverage grade of 67.1. Miles Bryant, corner, young corner. I believe he was drafted in 2020. $2.6 million cap hit under contract through 2023. He'll be 25. PFF coverage grade of 55.9. And then here are two young players they have drafted in recent years at the corner position. Marcus Jones, $1.2 million cap hit under contract through 2025. He'll be 27 years old by the end of the contract. Posted a PFF coverage grade of 66.8. And Jack Jones, $1 million cap hit under contract through 2025. He'll be 28. Coverage grade of 76. Okay, so they have a slew of just versatile weapons, man, in their secondary. I really like what they got. I'm a big fan. And they run a mix of cover 3 and cover 1. They like to use a lot of hole players, like cover 1 hole. They'll play robber and drop a guy in into the box. And like I said, they got a nice little blend of versatile players, man. All their safeties can do it all. They can tackle, they can play zone, they can man up, they can blitz. They can really do a lot with the guys they got in their secondary. And I would say it's really the best unit on the team is their secondary. I know that's Bill Belichick's bread and butter, but man, it is a pretty good unit. I'll wait on that, but that's what I got for the Patriots, man. You want to add any words to that?
Yeah, I'll add on to New England. One thing that I think needs to be said about New England is I'm happy that Bill O'Brien is coming in to run this offense, and this will let Bill Belichick go back to not running the defense because they have Mayo there as their defense coordinator. But I just think this would be a great thing for Bill Belichick to go help Mayo with the defense and change it back to like the New England way. I think we've seen enough of the New England offense with Bill Belichick at the head. I think Bill O'Brien will be great for Matt Jones, and just great for this New England offense. With that being said, I'm tying this in to the secondary because I think last year what hurt them is their secondary was out there so much because their offense just didn't perform at the level it should have.
Yeah.
And I just think, a key add, I understand it's a linebacker, but they went and got Chris Board. I understand that it isn't a secondary player, but it's a linebacker that could take pressure off of the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, I think with them releasing Jalen Mills shows that I would think with the money they have in cap, they're going to look to improve upon what he was doing.
Or they're just impressed with their young
That's
corners,
true,
man.
too. And I think another thing that kind of didn't get hit on by a lot of people, or even New England fans maybe did say it, I just wasn't hearing enough of it, is Kyle Duggar step up a lot. I'm impressed with how he came in and took over a lot of their safety position, what they needed. And this guy's a young guy, took over it and kind of didn't have no problem with it. So I just think this is a great guy they can build around. And like you were saying, with Jonathan Jones, Jack Jones, Marcus Jones, I think if your last name's Jones, you're coming to New England to play corner, and you're just going to be great at doing it. So, Jonathan Jones and Jack Jones, just impressive. Kind of like I said about Miami, these are two corners that are a dynamic duo together. But, that's really all I really have on New England. I just think with Bill Belichick going back to the defensive side, leave the offense alone. I think that's best for Bill and New England. Get him to help with the defense coordinator, maybe get him to just run the defense full time and have a defense coordinator like it probably was in New England for all those years Tom was there. I think with this being said, I'm hoping their offense improve that would help their defense be very, very good. I think this defense is really not the problem. More so it's just their offense is keeping them out there so long.
I would agree. Yeah.
So I'm excited like I am for this Miami defense, just kind of see what this New England defense with Bill Belichick back at the head of the table with the defense to see what it will be next year.
Yeah. I'm not excited because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I respect New England secondary and what they have to offer. And Bill Belichick. He's been doing this for a long time, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
So, that's really all I got on New England, man. You got anything else before I move on to the Jets here?
Yeah, they'll probably draft a corner this year for no reason, and he'll be great somehow. You'll see him on the field and go, who is this guy? And it'll be the guy they drafted for no reason.
His name will be Jack Jones.
Hey,
Again,
something
find
Jones.
another Jack Jones.
Nah, it'd be something Jones.
But you want to go ahead and spill your take on the Jets? I know you got a good one, man.
We can go with the New York Jets. Some of their key free agents is Joyner, Quan Alexander. Both haven't been signed. I think that kind of, I'm not going to say is Aaron Rodgers' fault, but I think they're kind of waiting to see what they have to do to get Aaron and see what the cap's actually going to be before they re-sign some of their big contracts.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking these guys are in the loop and are not signing anywhere else because they're kind of been told by the Jets, hey, we want you to come back. We're just waiting on Aaron at this point.
Yeah.
But to me, just the turnaround of the New York Jets last season was, to me, incredible. I mean, this defense went and got, Sauce Gardner. I mean, rookie cornerbacks are not supposed to be great, early, successful, and, become all pros in their first year. I mean, it's something that we have seen more and more, but normally that's just not what the corners do. And I just think with DJ Reed, he was standout. In coverage, this is a good number 2 corner. I think on another team without Sauce, he's easily a number 1 corner.
A lot of places he would be.
And I just think, receivers, what was it? The Jets finished with the second highest run stop win rate at 33% in the league. I think with that and with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, this defense is just coming together. And the whole reason they went and got Robert from the 49ers was to get this defense straightened out. And I understand the offense hasn't came together, but I'm not pointing that at the head coach. That's more on the GM drafting Zach Wilson, sadly. And it's not his fault. Just Zach Wilson hasn't lived up to what I guess the Jets and many teams projected him to be, a top 5 pick. He just hasn't turned out to be that. And kind of what I said about New England, I think this offense, even though this Jets defense had so much success, with them being out on the field as much as they were, it didn't really affect them. They were still a top elite defense. And I just think New York also, this offseason, I think started out right and just went and got a versatile safety in Short Clark. This isn't a Joyner, but I think this is a good veteran safety guy that's back there that, can't really teach any of these corners something. These corners are so good. I just think this is a good veteran piece to help them. And I think Robert can find his way of finding a better playmaking safety and maybe talk to his GM and getting this playmaker safety that take this Jets defense to the next level. And I think this defense, could easily, I think they will be a top 5 defense maybe. I think I wouldn't be surprised by it. This is a very good Jets team. And then you add in an Aaron Rodgers, no telling where they can be next year.
Yeah, I would agree. And their secondary is very good, man. It's very good. Like you were saying, highlighted by their first-round pick, Sauce Gardner, who really took the NFL by storm and turned a lot of heads for sure. They spent a lot on their secondary, though. They do. They have 15 players under contract for $46 million. That's good for 20.1% of their cap. That's third in the NFL, right behind Buffalo and Miami. So the AFC East likes to spend money on their dang secondary, and for good reason. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this division. Their biggest cap hit's Jordan Whitehead, safety, with the $10.2 million cap hit. He's under contract this season. He'll be 26 years old, and he had a PFF coverage grade of 70.6. DJ Reed, who you touched on, $8 million cap hit, under contract through this year and next. He'll be 28 by the end of his contract. Finished with a PFF coverage grade of 77.5, which is really solid. And Sauce Gardner, first-round pick, $7.6 million cap hit, under contract through 2025. He'll be 25 by the end of his contract. He had a PFF coverage rate of 90. Really nice. Really nice. Chuck Clark, safety from Baltimore, $4.1 million cap hit, under contract this year. He'll be 28 by the end of this year. And his PFF coverage rate was 61.1. He's I I would say a solid addition to that
That's
unit.
why I think they go and I would hope find a playmaking safety.
Well, I assume it'd be Jordan Whitehead at least a little bit. They're paying him.
That's
They
true.
can't really pay too much more, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're already investing so much into the secondary, but they also have Ashton Davis, who's their third safety, $3 million cap hit. He's under contract through 2023. He'll be 27 years old. He finished with PFF coverage grade of 57.7, which is pretty bad, but everyone else made up for it. So another young player on their defense, Michael Carter, the corner, not the running back, $1 million cap hit, under contract through 2024. He'll be 25. He's got a PFF coverage grade of 72.2, which is solid. Yeah, man, they run the Robert Saleh defense, which is similar to Seattle, what they run in San Francisco, where he's from. And they run a lot of cover 3, cover 1, and he likes to get exotic and mix some blitzes in there that are unique, I would say. They just have a very talented young core, and they have a ability to mix it up and play man and zone with guys like Sauce and Reed on the outside. And there's not too many teams that can compete with that. And they're only poised to get better, man. They're young, so I would expect Sauce to get better. I mean, who knows where he can go from here, but really good rookie year. And you pair that with DJ Reed, who's been solid. And he really kind of leveled up his game last year. So I really like what they have to work with here. And you got to, take your cap off for Joe Douglas, man. He is building a unit. And it hurts me to sit here and say it, man. It's a scary looking defense. It really is. They got players on all 3 levels. And this team is ready to go. Touch on anything before we get to the ranking part of this thing?
Nah, I'm just excited, man. I can't wait for the season to see how the defenses pan out.
Yeah, I can't either. I think it's going to be really exciting. There's going to be so many good games in the AFC East this year. So many good
battles, man.
Yes, battles. They are going to be quite familiar with each other. But so I would say let's go. Do you have your rankings ready?
I got a good idea. We can go 4-1, keep people on the edge of their seats, see what we're going to say. You want to start or you want me to start?
Okay, I guess I'll start.
You can just do your 4, shoot it back to me, and we just go back and forth.
Well, I wanted to reason a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, you'll say your 4, give your reason,
okay,
and then I'll not say anything, do my 4. I might have a reaction, but I'm not going to say anything.
My 4th ranked team. The New York, I'm just kidding. No, the Buffalo Bills. That might shock people, but I'm banking on the safeties getting a little bit older. Their health diminished a little bit last year. They're losing their DC, and they relied a lot on Tremaine Edmunds in their coverage. So I'm thinking they're going to take a step back, man. And it's not like I'm saying they suck. This whole dang division has a good secondary. So
that's tough competition.
It is. So that's my 4th ranked team, man.
Man, I was leaning towards New England at this 4 spot, but I'm going to go Buffalo just because, or you know what, actually, I can't do it, man. I'm going to go New England like I was leaning towards just because I'm scared to see Matt Jones in this offense. I'm scared they're going to keep this defense out on the field, and I'm not saying this is the downfall of New England, but I think New England, as we've seen, is getting tougher and tougher over there. And I think this might be where it's time to start taking some steps down.
Start taking it apart, tearing it down?
Yes.
Okay. I understand that. I got New England at 3. I got New England at 3 just because, like I said, they got a nice just slew of good players. I mean, I know so does Buffalo, but I think their safeties are younger, and I wouldn't quite say their peak was as high as Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer's, but they just got a slew of them, man. They got a bunch of players there, and it's not so reliant on one player staying healthy. They just got guys, and their corners are all like mix and match, can do it all. And so I really appreciate that. That's very like Bill Belichick to have a bunch of guys that can just do it all players. And so I got them at 3, man. I think overall, they just got a little bit more to offer, and they're a little bit more versatile and prepared for a guy to go down. And they can just pick it up in stride.
Yeah. All right, my number 3 is going to be Buffalo. I think Sean McDermott taking over this defense, I think it might help it. I really do. They have the veteranship. I understand they're losing Edmunds like we hinted on a lot, but I can see Edmunds it took him a couple of years before this was his best year this year.
Yeah.
So I can see him maybe not plug and play a guy to play at that level, but I think Matt Milano and just secondary is good enough to go in coverage and really not miss a beat on this Buffalo dynasty, if you want to call it that, just repeatedly going to the playoffs that we've seen these last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. At least it's not 4 lost Super Bowls in a row.
Yeah, goodness.
Like in the 90s.
But I just think this Buffalo team, a lot of people are kind of saying, this is their hump or they kind of missed their gap. I think as long as they got number 17 back there throwing the ball, their gap is going to be for a very long time. I just think the secondary, like you said, is getting older. That does scare me. I want to see what White kind of comes back off this injury, but I think, the first round, Elam, just getting better, I think, this year. And Johnson's always kind of impressed me in the nickel spot and shows up when they need him to the most. I got Buffalo at 3, and they could easily be better than what we're ranking them, I think, but them other 2 teams that we hadn't said nothing about, their secondaries are, I think, easily better than Buffalo's.
All right. This one's what everyone came for, I think. I got my second-ranked team, man, New York Jets.
Oh.
It was tough, man. It really, for me, it was Miami and New York compete for this. And the reason why I put New York second, man, is they're young, right? They're definitely good, like no doubt about it. But I think if you look at kind of the pieces Miami has, and if you kind of dig deep to see what happened there, you can see why they had such a down year last year. It's not hard. You got your second, third, fourth, and fifth corner out, and your number 1 corner's 75%, and then you're relying on UDFAs out there, and you're running 0 blitzes. No wonder you couldn't stop anything. But New York's got a lot to offer, man, and I really wouldn't be surprised if they, did better than Miami, because Miami, with Granning, they got good corners. They're both older. I think Howard's 30 and Ramsey's 29. Yeah. And Sauce is 23, 22. I mean,
something like that.
He's young, man, and it really depends on him. How much better does he get? Does he stay the same? Does he take another little bit of a step? And does they sign Rodgers and move the ball and keep his defense fresh? We'll see. What do you got to say about him, man?
My number 2, the only thing that scares me and why I'm putting this team at 2 is the team is definitely Miami at 2, because, the new DC comes in, and as we've seen in the past, these teams get new DCs, and at the end of the year, it helps the team very much, and you see what the defense actually is. But I just think when this defense first come in, there's going to be some miscues, some missed positions, some not even near where they need to be. So I think that maybe play an effect, one, on just Miami's not 2-star corners, but just their other players that normally are not at a position are going to somehow find their way in that. But, I can also see that this defense comes in and the system is 100% and they can easily be this one team. But also, I look on the other side and their quarterback is Tua, which always somehow find his way hurt, and that's when this defense has to step up even more. And then I can see where this defense is going to have to be more greedy, and then they're going to even go more down in rankings. Kind of what we've seen, not this year because of Tua, just injuries. This is an older defense. I trust the Jets to be more healthy than Miami. One, because of the heat in Miami. I don't think that plays a big effect on players as much since they're in Miami. That's their home team. But I just want the system and just where Ramsey actually going to fit. Like you said, they're going to move this guy around a lot. They're going to move Javon Holland around a lot.
He can fit in any defense.
I agree, but Are you going to be doing too much moving, and instead of y'all playing checkers, y'all going to try to play chess and it not work?
Maybe. I think really the difference maker for me, because I'm looking at the two corner duos, and I pretty much made them equal, man. I look at both of them.
To me, you can. Gardner could be whichever one you like more in Miami. Some people are going to pick Howard. Some people are going to pick Ramsey.
Well, I do think Howard rebounds. I really do. I think
but that's what Miami's hoping for. If he doesn't rebound, then that hurts.
We got Neek Needham, Cater Kohu. We do got some other guys in the corner room that are solid options. So I'm not like super concerned, but that concern is there for me as well. Xavier Howard may be coming back, getting banged up, having the knee issues resurface. But the reason why I got Miami at 1 is I am banking on Mr. Xavier Howard rebounding, but also Javon Holland is going to be a difference maker in this defense. The Jets don't have a Javon Holland. They don't. The Patriots don't have a Javon Holland. The Buffalo Bills don't have a Javon Holland. This is who I think is the difference, and I think we're talking about potentially a top 3 safety in the NFL. Like, I'm really high on him. Maybe I shouldn't be. Last year, like, because of everything that was going on, he was kind of removed from being able to make plays. And I think we'll see Javon Holland back this year. If you guys, want to go look into some Javon Holland, pull up his rookie year tape, man. He posted an 87 coverage grade as a rookie coming into a complicated defense. That's why I got Miami at 1, man. Javon Holland. That's really what it boiled down to for me.
I hear you, man. Number 1, I got the Jets. I think this, to me, was a no-brainer. I just think Sauce Gardner, like I said, they're younger. DJ is younger. Michael Carter, your PFF grade, what was it? A 70, I think, for him?
72.2.
And, that's your third corner.
Yeah.
And I think all these guys I named are young guys. They can only get better. Granted, they can get worse, but at how young they are, you would think the only thing they can do is move up.
Yeah.
And I think with their head coach, this defense each year since he's been in that building has just got better. Like I said, it is his fault to a degree because he is the head coach. This offense has been so bad. But this defense was the reason they really went and got him. The Jets' defense has been terrible since Rex Ryan's been gone.
Yep.
I just think this defense has the potential to be so great. And they had that veteran middle linebacker to be their Mike, to be their leader, to be everything these guys need since they're so young. And then you add Aaron to this offense, and then you rest these guys that are so, this guy, Sauce Gardner, had a 90 PFF grade. No, a 90 PFF grade?
That's really good, man.
Ain't no Miami player got that. Ain't no Buffalo Bill player got that. Ain't no New England Patriot player got that.
Man. Don't steal my line.
Ain't none of them got a Sauce Gardner, man. And I think that's what, to me, is the difference, man.
Jalen Ramsey is a Sauce Gardner, my guy.
I think Jalen Ramsey was that when he first got in the league.
Oh, man.
I think Ramsey.
Are you saying Sauce is better than Ramsey?
I think Sauce Gardner's the best corner in this division.
Oh,
easily.
No, man.
Easily.
Come on, man.
Easily.
Oh, man.
I think Xavier Howard injuries. White injuries. Jonathan Jones, he's good, but he's not Sauce Gardner good. Level. That's what I just think. Like you said, Javon Holland's your reason. Sauce Gardner is my reason. This guy is so good that any number 1 wide receiver in this division, in the league, that's a guy they have to worry about. And if they say they're not worried about him, they are lying.
What did Jalen Ramsey say? All right.
Man, what he said your coach. Right. He said Miami coach is weird, but you know what?
He is.
He is. Cool.
He's also swaggy.
Yep. But like I said, man, I'm excited to see this New York Jets secondary more than any other secondary, and that's why I have them at 1. They're just the young talent they have. The potential is only going to get better.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I understand where you're coming from with that. I gave Miami the edge.
I hear you, but
I'm glad we disagree. It makes the show more interesting.
It does, but you're leaning a lot on Javon Holland, so I just think if he doesn't do good and how much you're putting into him.
Bro, that dude's something different.
I hear you, man, but
You went and saw him live, man.
I did. I seen him live, man. But what I heard was excuses on why his PFF grade was so low this year because we have special team player. I don't want to hear excuses.
I mean, I'm just telling you what happened. You put a special teams player out there on the island, he's going to get burnt. And you got a safety 15 yards back. He ain't going to see the ball. He's just going to be tackling the motherfuckers that are, oops. I got to mark this as explicit. All right, man. But you got any last words before I wrap up the show?
Yes, man. My last words, man, y'all have seen in the last couple of pods, and I've been very vocal. But this division better just hope Aaron Rodgers doesn't come to the Jets, or it's going to be a long season for all the secondaries besides the Jets, because that's the team he's going to be taking to the playoffs.
Sauce Gardner going to get burnt by Tyreek this year.
Tua's
going to be better than Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, the only thing I got to say about Tyreek
Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the division.
Tyreek, instead of be running track against some old 30-year-old man, he need to be studying film for when Sauce Gardner locks him up.
We'll see about that. But anyway, I think that concludes the pod here. Hope everyone enjoyed. Let us know what you thought about the rankings of give us your rankings. We'd like to see them, and hit us up on social media. Thanks everyone for listening.